Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have with me Loren Greiff. She is the founder of Portfoliorocket, and we met it's maybe been 3 or 4 weeks. But I just love her content, so I was so excited to have her on. She, after 25 years of a career spanning a variety of corporate creative roles as VP at J. Walter Thompson, on the client side at discovercar.com, and then as a managing consultant, sort of recruiter within Korn Ferry's digital practice, she faced what she knew for a very long time, that the hiring and recruiting process is broken. So she launched Portfoliorocket last year, which is a proprietary system for creatives and marketers to tap into the hidden job market. Today, she helps everyone from design thinkers to UXers, creative directors, product designers, digital marketers to articulate their worth and increase the number of opportunities that are a good fit for them. So, Loren, thank you so much for joining me. I've been really excited to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Virginia. I'm so excited to be here.
So you heard me just sort of give a little bit of an intro. Give me a little bit more detail around what you do and what made you say, enough, I really need to help people with this, the crux of this problem that is the hidden job market.
For sure. So, I knew very early on that my winning formula in my career was when I was able to combine two complementary and sometimes diametrically opposed forces, the creative and the business side of life. Mm-hmm. And I've been working and talking with creatives for more than 25 years. And when I would hear them going through the process of looking for a new job, I would hear their sadness and
angst, and all of it,
and hurt and, disgruntledness, if that's a word, and went along the lines of like, I feel like human clickbait. I feel like, I'm in a meat market where I'm a commodity and, people are just moving me from job to job and selling me this and selling me that. And I don't necessarily know any other way. This is what I've been trained to do. This is how I know how to look for a job. When I'm not, when I need a job, I just call, a recruiter, or I check the job boards and, I just kind of from what I know is in existence. And I started studying the hidden job market about 2 years ago, from being on the recruiting side and hearing a lot of this, displeasure around the process and understanding that no matter where I had been working, whether it was a world-class, creative and marketing staffing firm or a global managing consultant firm, that on some level, the process was the same.
Yeah, it's sort of systemic.
It is. And I just want to call this out. I'm not like dissing on recruiters. I love recruiters, and recruiters can be your best friend. So it's like any other profession, there's lots of great ones, and there's some, that are just looking to score on their commission. And it is a metrics-based industry. So you're there to fill a job.
That's right. They're doing their job. Right.
They are doing their job. And, they have clients and they are busy making sure that they are filling that role in order to expand that piece of business. So that's baked into the process itself. So after about 10 months of moving over to the managing consultant side, I knew that it just felt icky. I felt really powerless. I felt like I was in some ways betraying myself and maybe even betraying a lot of the candidates that I was working with, because even though I knew that the roles that I was aligning them to could be good fits for them, it may not have been exactly what they wanted to align themselves with. The process of finding a job is one of the biggest decisions and the biggest account for your time that you will have in your life. And to kind of turn that over to somebody else to decide what that looks like and how you should thrive in that position and what you should be paid, it runs a risk.
It does, and it's very disempowering.
Yes. So it is disempowering. And again, I think that the biggest challenge is that, so what's the alternative?
Right.
So what? I hear that there's something that's not working, but where do I go from here? And I think that it's incumbent on all of us in the industry to, make sure that, there is a portion of time where you're spending, evaluating roles that are there and, are more on the passive side, but that looking for a job and finding your next career move is really a bi-directional process, right? You want to be hustling and making sure that you are being found just as much as you are finding.
So when we talk about hidden job market, I feel like we probably should explain that a little bit further, because what I have seen is that it sometimes means different things to different people. How are you defining that term right now?
Great question. And it's definitely a little bit of a controversial issue. Like some people think, oh, it's a bunch of BS. Some people think, oh no, this thing is all in.
Right.
And it's really there. So I want to put that out there. That can be very polarizing. So how I define the hidden job market is when a candidate is fast-tracked by virtue of a referral or through being seen before a job is posted, or through a connection that then turns into an opportunity that they create for themselves. So it can be a pre-existing role. It can be through a conversation where where a candidate is essentially saying, like, here's what I know how to do and here's what I can do for you. And they create an opening for it.
Right. Okay.
So,
yeah. That thank you for spelling that out, because I think a lot of people think, well, that means that companies just are hiding the postings, and it's not that. A lot of times it's by the time the posting has come out, there's already a strong pipeline of people available to the decision maker.
There is so much that goes on behind the scenes. And I know that you understand this so intimately. They could have a pre-identified candidate for whatever reasons. It could be an internal candidate where they need to post that job for
to cover, to comply with the rules, right?
Compliance, right? They could have had a passive pipeline that they have been accumulating for a long period of time that they decide to turn on. Like, oh, we've been talking to this pool of talent for a long time, like you suggested, a pipeline. They could put that job up there as a way to start a pipeline.
To build it, that's right.
Right. So it's either pre-existing or then, you're initiating that because you anticipate in 6 months you're going to need this person. So from a candidate's perspective, we don't know what the agenda and the motive is behind why that posting is up.
Right.
Another thing is that so many of us talk about also in the industry is that posting a job for an organization is expensive. It's very costly, not just the actual buy to post it. I mean, LinkedIn is expensive too, but then to have the man hours to go through that.
That's right. Creating it, posting it, sifting through it. Right. It's not cheap. Okay. So thank you for spelling that out, because there's so many different facets. So what do you see as the biggest challenge to those that are job searching today in terms of navigating that market?
Great question. I think the two that I think are most common and is the one we almost, kind of delve into entirely, that most candidates are doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Insanity. Yeah.
They just don't know any different. I'm not saying that they don't know any better. It's really not their fault because it's just been the way it's always been. Every person, I'm going to brush up my resume and then I'm going to go and look at postings online.
That's right.
And this is like, you hear this all the time. And then the second misconception is that your network somehow should act like a career bellhop that is ready to serve you when you want something from them.
Which works if you're the CEO of a big fat company, but it does not always work.
Right. Yeah. And I'm very sensitive to this because relationships, and we talk about this so often. I mean, it is your network is your net worth. But dormant relationships that you start reactivating, well, those are it's a great strategy and you should definitely do that. But you want to do that in a sensitive way so that it doesn't come across as usury. Mm-hmm. Let those relationships go, and all of a sudden you're, ringing somebody's doorbell and saying, "Hey, I'm resurfacing, and now what do you have for me?" That doesn't really help so much. It kind of reminds me of this analogy that shows up. They say that if you're thirsty, you could already be hydrated.
Yeah,
and so you should be hydrating all the time.
And don't wait to dig your well until you're thirsty.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, I actually want to come up with a new word for networking. It seems like this has been such a loaded term and comes with some level of ickiness. Some people think it's really spammy or salesy, but I'll say that my experience is that people want to help. They really do. And most are super, super generous, but they also want to know that it's reciprocal, right? And that you're not going to just vaporize because you got what you wanted and now you're taking a hike.
I agree with that. Is there, and maybe you've just answered this, but is there something that clients just are very surprised by in terms of beginning their job search? Maybe it's what we talked about before, that they're shocked that this strategy of buffing up your resume and shooting it out there doesn't work.
I think the thing that they are most surprised about, and it does come with a minor caveat, is if they're consistent, they will get results very quickly. My clients have come to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't expect this to work so fast."
Yeah, it feels like magic sometimes.
It does. They're like, "Wait a second, like all of a sudden, like, how did this happen?" And I think that that's very surprising to them. That most of my clients have really either been out of the job market for a long, long time, or have never had to actually go about a job search. And sometimes I'll say, "Well, you're not in Kansas anymore. Things are very different, and this is very effective." So I think the fast results with consistency.
It's interesting because so many of my clients, they come to me after they've been praying and spraying, and it's not working. But when I say, "Well, how have you gotten your last jobs?" It's usually been through relationships. So while they say, "Well, it just fell in my lap," often it didn't. It's because they cultivated those relationships. They didn't let them lie dormant. So sometimes I feel like people do have that skill set. They just weren't aware that they were flexing it.
Yeah, I also think that I hear this quite a bit. "Oh, and I've been reaching out to my network." The good and scary part about that is there are 675 million plus people on LinkedIn. That's a network, right? Mm-hmm. And as much as you are going to your first, second, third degree connections, which is really important, I want both messages to come out. oftentimes it's the people that you haven't met yet. And there is a scientific term for it, forgive me, but I don't remember it. But basically, your 7th, 8th, 9th connections.
Yeah. The people that you don't know, the people that you need to know versus the people you already know. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that there's a lot of evidence that points to, well, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, or this comment, or this, I replied here, I did this, yields more than they ever expected.
I agree with that. That's how my husband got his last job. I mean, no shock. He talked to 3 people who gave him the name of 3 people who named the 3 people, but did it by targeting a company, reverse engineering to figure out who he might know that might know people. And then those strangers introduced him to new strangers. And led to opportunities before the postings came out. Yeah. So is there a behavior or a piece of education that's missing that just drives you most nuts when it comes to job seeker actions?
I would say the key pet peeve that I have is when I'll be speaking with somebody and they want all of the results, and then the steam kind of burns off, and that consistency falls apart. It's kind of like, any good behavior, it needs to be cultivated every day.
Yeah. Well, it's like trying to diet versus adapting a healthy eating habit, in my mind. Yeah. And I mean, I'm guilty. I didn't lose 5 pounds. I tried for 2 days. It doesn't always happen.
Right. And then they're like, oh, it's not working. Yeah. It's been like 3 days.
Right. The consistency wasn't there. Right. You have to put in the work, but you're right. When you do the work, it pays off.
You have to put in the work. So I think that's kind of the thing that drives me most nuts. I think the kind of second thing is that a lot of the pushback that I get from candidates and clients is that, I don't have anything to say in my content, so why am I doing this? You have a lot to say. You have great stories, great experiences, lots of things to share, metrics, anecdotes, quotes. There is a never-ending opportunity to share and to provide, I know it's overused, provide value that people can relate to. And
you're right. So they haven't fleshed out their stories.
They have not fleshed out their stories. And somehow there's, again, a misperception or false belief that they don't bring a lot to the table, and that it's easy to do that. It's not easy for anyone.
It's not. It's not easy. It's really hard. Some people are gifted at it, but to me, figuring out, getting a high level view of the value you bring, telling it in a way that is storytelling so that it resonates with people, and then applying that to reaching out to people you don't know, that is tough stuff, and it is not intuitive for most.
Completely.
So what advice do you give, and I'm sure you deal with, is people that are looking to make a career change? How do you recommend they get started on all of this? They know that they don't want to do what they're doing anymore.
I think it boils down to really the problems that you are great at solving. It really, at the end of the day, hiring managers want to see, oh, you generated this, stream of revenue here. Bam, you can do that over here. You changed a process flow of efficiency over here. Oh, that means that you're really great at seeing, how to streamline things for, to cut out the fat. Like these problems that you can solve are, at the end of the day, the greatest teller of what they can do for them. So many say, oh, I'm a problem solver. I'm a creative problem solver. I'm a strategic problem solver. And without having the results, the business results, it's hard to care.
Yeah. And the results resonate across industries in my experience.
Totally.
I got some really good advice from someone I spoke with last week, and they were talking about that problem solving piece, and they suggested as a way to, when you're doing your elevator speech, that so many people are uncomfortable with it. To your point, networking feels salesy. Focus on sharing the problem, how you solve problems and help others or help companies. Frame your value that way versus
one of my great mentors, Lee Andracy, taught. She was actually the trainer for all the recruiters when I worked at Aquint. Shout out to Aquint and Vitamin T. And she came up with a formula that I use to this day called the PAR, Problem Action Result. And that helps keep things clean.
Yep. And I do CAR, Challenge Action Result, same thing.
There you go. And just having that is a great way to train yourself to.
And that's how you flesh out your stories.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So what about that? So that's the person that is looking to make a career change and doesn't really know how to craft the narrative around that. What about the person who has already jumped into job search and it is not going well? How do you recommend they regroup and refocus?
So, the first thing I just want to shout from the rooftops is don't give up. It's easy to beat yourself up. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. So don't give up and get unreasonable. Get unreasonable and do something that you haven't done before. Get unreasonable. We know that even with COVID, companies are still hiring. Tons of opportunities are out there. So that is not an excuse. So I would say, the kind of 1-2 punch, don't give up and get unreasonable would be my two suggestions.
Do you have any advice for helping people to stay motivated?
You know what? I use the day. I use the day as a motivator and say, and not to get too far ahead. And sometimes I call that trespassing into the future, where you're kind of in a bad neighborhood. What if this doesn't happen? What if that doesn't happen?
The coulda, woulda, the oh no's. What? Yeah, okay.
Stay present, but pack your day with structure. So that day needs to be structured, because if you're not managing your time, it's impossible. I mean, there's too many things to do, not to mention homeschooling and working out, all the mundane things that that can be a time suck, but really, really parse out your day. I do use, it's free. It's a Pomodoro. It's a timer that I use regularly, because I also suffer from having a very full plate and managing.
So Pomodoro is for time management. I imagine that's very good for shiny squirrel syndrome, where you can get distracted very easily.
Yes. And so for those 25 minutes, I am on task, take a break, get back into it.
I might get Pomodoro. I have found since COVID that my attention leaps so much, that I've had to turn off all my notifications, do all kinds of crazy things just to stay focused when I'm writing.
I'm employing lots of those same strategies.
Yeah.
Phone in another room, shutting off the notifications, even playing that game with myself on Pomodoro, for the next 25 minutes, I am not going to do anything else. And that's an agreement I make with myself.
I love that. Maybe give yourself a treat if you follow your rules. Yeah.
After
yeah. That's very good. So what about, and you sort of you talked about it earlier with to figure out what problems that you solve. What advice do you have for a person? And I'm sure you get this with the creatives you work with, where they have a really diverse skill set. They go lots of different directions. How do you advise them on figuring out that next best step, or at least positioning themselves for whatever they want?
I'm so happy that you asked this question because I've been told that I'm the queen of bad analogies. And so
Bring it on. What do you have next for me?
I'm going to use it right here.
All right.
So I can hold on to my title.
Okay.
So I made this up many years ago. It seemed to work. And so I've used it on and on and on. But I like to help them identify their skill set like a food label. So the bad analogy that I use is, here you are, you're going to the store, it's spaghetti night, and you're going to buy the canned spaghetti, and you go to the shelf and you pull off that jar and you turn around and you look at the food label, and garlic is the first thing. Well, garlic is not why you're buying the sauce. You expect that it's going to be in there. You know that it's going to be in there because it's tomato sauce. So it needs to be much further on down the list. So you need to look at the key areas, the big rocks or the tomatoes in this case, that you are going to lead with. All the other stuff may be subsetted underneath that, ingredients versus the reason why. So sifting out those 1, 2, 3 big pieces and then sprinkling in these other ones has been really, really effective. So, some people are hybrids. UX, UI is a perfect example.
You're right. Some things can naturally be married.
Right. But if you are a UXer and an art director, that's going to be tough.
Right.
Because they borrow from a different set of skills, and they have different reasons for being, and you're going to get hired for one or the other, not for both. So you need to be careful to find out if it is a pure hybrid, like you've suggested, or if one is, if you are a UXer and your key area of skill set is in user flows, then you have some chops in visual design. Visual design needs to be much further down.
That's right.
So you are placing, you're aligning with what it is that job description and what it is that hiring managers needs first.
Yeah, I got some advice from Dawn Graham, who she had a book called Switching Careers. She's got a Sirius XM podcast show, and she talks about match first, focus on being different later. So figure out whatever it is that is closest to what they're looking for. And then the other stuff that you offer is an added value. But first, they need to make sure that you match.
Completely. Yeah. I think that's exactly in concert with what I'm sharing.
Yeah. Agree. So this next question is a topic that I have dealt with a long time. It's been in the news, it's been on the tips of our tongues and table talk a lot recently. And that's about discrimination when it comes to hiring practices, age, gender, ethnicity. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic, how it impacts the industry that you work with primarily, and how you help clients to navigate potential barriers to entry.
Absolutely. This is definitely a juicy and touchy subject. I think that discrimination and bullying, of course, has been happening forever, and it's still happening. And until there is a universal feeling of safety, it's essentially all lip service. So if you are a diversity candidate and that's something that you are looking for, or a client that I'm working with, you want to best understand not just who's on the board and who is representing, but best of all, you want to find out what changes have been actually implemented to address this. It's not enough to just throw a Black Lives Matter black box, or to use this as a way to kind of appeal to any kind of fashion around diversity. It's really all about the changes that have been made in the organization as a result. And so you need to, get in there, talk to people who are working there, find out what has happened recently. There's no reason why change needs to be, next year. There's too much that's happening right now. So I would say that the best advice is to do the digging and identify what movement has happened as of recently, and then what is scheduled, not talked about, scheduled to be forthcoming.
Yeah, make sure they're walking the walk.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's very, very good advice. So this is one of my favorite questions, as it happens to me all the time. Someone comes up to you at a party back when we were allowed to be around other people, and says, I hate my job. I'm getting ready to get started. What do I need to have? What are a couple of tools that a job seeker cannot be without?
That self-knowledge, knowing what you do better than anybody else and why you're doing it. Why does that matter to you? Why does it keep you up in the middle of the night? Where is that kind of insatiable craving and thirst that makes that interest and passion, really, really something that you can't live without? I mean, you have to really put it on the line and say, why am I doing this? And knowing what it is that I do better. And what it is that you do better is the kinds of problems that you solve. So it is somewhat of a reiteration, but I think that they need to have that clarity, because there's a lot of noise and friction that happens throughout the process, and it's easy to get swayed. When a shiny job object comes along, yeah, you know what? Maybe I should just do this, or maybe I should just do that. It'll pay the bills. And I'm not saying don't take it. I'm saying, just be true to yourself and know that you're taking it because it may be temporary or because it will expand your skills in a certain area. But without that self-awareness and the why behind it, it's going to be challenging.
That the part about the why, I think, is what brings that full circle, because a lot of people say, well, I'm a really good multitasker. I'm a great communicator. So what? Why is that so important? And when you can articulate that is what resonates, because otherwise you are just, the thing that you do better than others is something that a lot of people say about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Until you can make that connection as to, why that is important or critical.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like you are advocating a lot of self-reflection. Make sure someone is really solid on.
Yeah, and of course that changes throughout your life. I mean, I think in your 20s, you're really okay with just getting a job.
Yep.
When you're in your 30s, it's kind of like, okay, I'm developing this area of expertise. As you get more senior, other things start creeping in. Like, you know what? I don't necessarily want to be a manager anymore. I'm really good at being an individual contributor. I'm fine with that.
Right. People, you have more confidence in who you are.
Yeah. So it needs to be reassessed as you as a job seeker evolve. The same issues even that were important, 6-9 months ago are completely different now.
That's true. That's true. Crisis is a great time to self-reflect, and so many new careers come of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's. I heard somebody say yesterday, "I'm taking this not as a beating. I'm taking it as a bruise."
I like that.
This isn't a bad on me that I got somehow, eliminated from my job. Mm-hmm. This is a bruise, and the bruise will heal very quickly.
That's right. And a lot of people it didn't happen right at the beginning, but I'm seeing it now. People are using the time to reflect and pull the trigger on changes or moves that they were maybe too scared to do otherwise. I saw that in 2008. I'm definitely seeing that now.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Fear is a big one, and it'll grab you by the jugular and stop you
Yeah. Pandemic silver lining is that there might be a lot of successful career changers as a result.
Yeah. That's what comes in, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Loren, you launched your business last year. Tell me what is next for you? What does 2020 and 2021 look like for you?
Great question. Lots of exciting things coming down the pike. Building out the brand. I started in December. It's been a wild and wonderful ride. So really building out the brand, really, building in an expansion within the program, going deeper into a lot of the hidden job market strategies. And I think that, one of the things that I really do enjoy that's really important to me is being surrounded by creatives and marketers who surprisingly are so great at marketing every other product and service, but then they are just so challenged by them.
Cobbler's children.
And being able to get that message out, whether it's in podcasts, speaking engagements, and I'm actually working on a graphic novel.
No way. Yeah. That's so exciting. Do you have a title yet?
No, I do not. Because I like to, where everyone else is zigging, I like to zag. So I am working on that and want it to be very fun and irreverent. And I'm not a great illustrator, but I'm a wonderful doodler. So I am going to be working on that also.
Oh gosh, that I'm signing up for that. Tell me when the list gets started. So if people want to follow you, learn more, reach out, I have Portfoliorocket.com and your LinkedIn listed on the bio. Are there any? Are those the best places to reach out?
Portfoliorocket. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I do post almost every day. My post is not up yet. Almost every day. So I love hearing other people's points of views. I welcome healthy debate and all that good stuff. So I just really, really appreciate you inviting me and being such a wonderful, wonderful host and LinkedIn presence. It's always a pleasure to read what you have to say.
I feel the same way about you. This was so much fun. Thank you. I love the analogies. I'm going to make sure to keep some of them. I don't know if they're copyrighted, but I'll probably share them with some of my clients, but really good stuff.
All you. Thank you a ton. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's skim online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.